sprained ankle last night. He'll miss at least one game, according to 9 News Denver. Tampa Bay quarterback Jameis Winston's shoulder injury is a sprained AC joint, according to the NFL Network report. Tonight, it's Indianapolis at Tennessee. Also, baseball on FS1, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Game 3 of the ALCS, Houston at the Yankees, and the Spurs gave LaMarcus Aldridge an extension through 2021.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set, just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
Good evening, Clemson Tiger Nation. Gamecocks, Bulldogs, Yellow Jackets, and Seminoles peeking over the fence at the Hurry Up No Huddle Sports Talk Express. If you tuned in because you thought you were going to hear that all night, you're not. It's a loss. It's done. It's in the rear view. I got a windshield mentality. I'm looking forward. 803-978-1832 is the number. 803-978-1832. The Orange shock Clemson 27-24 in the Carrier Dome on Friday the 13th. That was not the only shakeup in the top 10 of college football, which is another topic we can talk about later, conveniently for Clemson. Last season you lose against Pittsburgh and dominoes start falling all around you. This year you lose against Syracuse and dominoes start falling all around you. We'll update you on where Clemson is in the polls. We'll give you our thoughts on the matchup this past weekend. William Qualkenbush set to join us. Lowell, the producer, in studio. Whole lot of Clemson football to get to. South Carolina comes away with a victory over Tennessee. I knew when the Volunteers were kicking field goals. I said, you guys got to be putting 6 on the board. You keep kicking field goals against this South Carolina team, they are going to find a way. They're scrappy. They're scrappy, man. I don't think they're very good, but they're scrappy. They've found a way now to go to 5-2 on the season. Clemson with the loss, they're 6-1. And I know Dabo Swinney and the coaching staff have been talking about, well, we control our own destiny. Everything is still in front of us and so on and so forth. And I kind of agree to an extent until I look at the rankings in the SEC. And technically speaking, Syracuse still only has one loss in conference play and a win over Clemson. They technically would go to the ACC championship if they went out, no matter what Clemson does from this point forward. But semantics. I don't think a lot of people believe Syracuse is going to go undefeated the rest of the way. Although, if the Syracuse team that I saw in the Carrier Dome shows up for their remaining games, maybe. But I think it'll be tough sledding for the Orange. How about Dino Babers? You got to love this guy. Did I not say, have I not said since the Atlantic Coast Conference kickoff up in Charlotte over the summer that I love Dino Babers? I do. I mean, I really do. Listen. If you told me Sweeney's retiring, Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott don't want the job, and Brent Venables just loves defense, who do you want to be your head coach? Babers is high on my list. I mean real high. Who's orange? Our orange. Love Dino Babers. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Not an ideal performance, though, in a lot of facets of the game. And I know in our Tiger Tracker over on ClemsonSportsTalk.com, I don't believe any unit, offense, defense, or special teams, graded higher than a C- in this one. There were some players who had a big day, or had a big day. But in terms of the entire team, not so great. First, we'll go with the positives. Cleveland Farrell was named ACC Defensive Lineman of the Week earlier today. Farrell had 3.5 sacks, 5.5 tackles for loss in Clemson's loss to Syracuse. His 5.5 tackles for loss tied for the most in the nation by any player this year at the FBS level, and it was just a half a sack away from the single-game Clemson record, and just a half tackle for loss shy of the school record in that category. He had 9 total tackles, 7 of which were first contact tackles for Clelin Ferrell. Can I say this, though? This game went so awkwardly and so kind of out of bounds for Clemson, I didn't even recognize that. There wasn't a moment in that game where I turned to my wife or my son or anybody that was with me and said, you know what? Clelin Ferrell's having himself a game, big fella. I did not. It was sort of an invisible 3.5 sacks. And that may put into perspective how good Syracuse actually played against Clemson. Some of the bad, though, from that defensive front. Bad mistakes made by Christian Wilkins with a personal foul. Bad mistake by Austin Bryant a couple of times lining up off sides, getting into the neutral zone early, and then a personal foul penalty, which I have to say, I don't know that the hit that he put on Eric Dungy should have been flagged. And the reason I don't think that it should have been flagged, Dungy was being very laissez-faire, very laid back very casual with his movements toward the sidelines. And I don't have the play in front of me right now, and I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to go back and watch this thing. I should have because it was a Friday game, but I have not had a chance to go back and watch it yet. But I definitely did not think that he was out of bounds by any means. I didn't think it was a late hit. But again, no matter how it was sliced and diced on the field, Clemson didn't play well. I thought Syracuse played extremely hard, gave a lot of effort, and the Orange deserved to win that game. The Orange deserved to win that ball game over the Clemson Tigers. He sits across from me, doing who knows what during the show. I believe updating his Pinterest page. He is none other than Lowell, the producer. Lowell, what's going on, my man?
Bada boom. Realest champs in the room. How you doing?
Well, I mean, I could be better. I could be undefeated. But in retrospect, how many people thought this team would be undefeated at this point outside of me? I thought the team was going undefeated. But I had a caveat. Do you remember what my caveat was? Clemson will go undefeated if they remain healthy. What we found out pretty early in that game was that Kelly Bryant was not healthy. He may have been at or near, and again, I want to say this. We've said all week coming into that ball game, there are probably very few players that are 100% right now. Everybody's got something going on. And I believe that Kelly Bryant and the coaching staff felt like Kelly Bryant was good to go prior to that game. Kelly Bryant out on the field throwing the ball before the game. David Hale, ESPN, said, hey, no problem, looks good. But it didn't take long for me to see Kelly Bryant running the football and Kelly Bryant getting tackled a couple of times and putting what I would call pressure and even adversity in some respects on that ankle. Just making that ankle twinge a little bit before I really started to see him slowing down. So much so that there was a point where I said, you got to get him out of there. He's hobbling. I mean, he's running to the sideline. You know when you I think we can all relate. Most of us have tweaked our ankle at some point doing something. And most of us have tweaked it enough to where when you walk, you have a little, I like to call it a hitch in your giddy up. There's just a little something not right. You could see him hobbling visibly on the field. So health was a key to Clemson going undefeated in the regular season. Bryant was not healthy. Even given Bryant's injury, even given that, the thing that ultimately caught up with Clemson was the health of Greg Hugel. in the fact that Greg Hugel was taken out on the last play of a practice when he shouldn't have been hit. Your field goal kicker, if you have one there, like Hugel, instead of an inexperienced Spence, who, by the way, is 2 for 6 now in his opportunities. If you're keeping score at home, Mr. and Miss Spence, close your ears for a second. That's atrocious. That's horrible. That's not good. That's not close to good. Greg Hugel wasn't great at the beginning of the season. You might recall. I think Greg Hugel was 1 of 4, I believe, or 1 of 3. I can't remember. But he had one that he made, and there was a penalty, and then he missed. So, yeah, he was closer to 50%. But, I mean, these were what I would call routine field goals. These were field goals that should have been made. And the first one, I'm still looking for Ammon Lakip's field goal attempt against Florida State back in 2014. Wasn't that the game on the road? I believe it was. I'm not sure where that ball went. I'm pretty certain that it's somewhere in the stratosphere just floating around, because it clearly did not land in my visual line of sight, I guess you would say. I think Alex Spence managed to equal that attempt by Ammon Lakip down at Florida State, because when you can't even find the ball when it comes off his foot, you can't even, there's like no, not a moment that it goes forward. Looks like Lowell off the tee box with a 9-iron. Not pretty. Injuries were a big part of my belief that Clemson would go undefeated. They had to stay healthy. And maybe it's a pipe dream to believe you'll stay healthy all season. But I really believe that even with Kelly Bryant being injured in that game and then ultimately being concussed in that game because of that injury, I believe that had Greg Hugel been on the field for Clemson, the Tigers win that game 30-27. Now, listen, Greg Hugel wasn't perfect this year, and he might miss. But even with the loss of the quarterback, Kelly Bryant, the bigger issue became the missing kicker. It took a couple of games, but it finally caught up with Clemson. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. And again, congratulations to Cleveland Farrell, named ACC Defensive Player of the Week on the defensive line. 3.5 sacks, 5.5 tackles for loss in that game against Syracuse.
Well, the whole Kelly Bryant situation, I called you right after the game, and we talked a little bit, and you can confirm that I was not happy with the way Kelly Bryant was handled in that ball game. Look, I don't know what his health was before the game. He may have been as close to 100% as you can get, and then he may have tweaked it again in the game. All right, that's not on the coaches or the the training staff. But once you see him out there and you can tell that he is not at 100%.
Yep.
He's got to come out of the ball game.
I agree.
And I was sitting there watching the game, and once Syracuse recognized that he could not run the football, they started sending the house at him. And I said out loud, I was watching the game with my dad, and I said to my dad, he's going to get hurt because he can't move. And then right before the half, they send a blitz. He tries to get away. He's dragged down and gets a concussion. That concussion was a direct result of him not being able to move. Because if he's healthy, he's getting out of that blitz and he's picking up 15 to 20 yards.
You know, we focus a lot on, and I do want to get back to Kelly and his health, but we focus a lot on, in college football, and football in general, on targeting. And I don't want to soften up the sport any more than it's already softened. I don't know if you heard Will Muschamp's comments about helmets and all that the other day. That was beautiful, by the way, Coach. I really appreciate that from Coach Muschamp. But if you think about it like this, how is slamming a player to the ground any different than targeting them? Because in reality, that is what happened. I mean, that's why Kelly Bryant got hurt. It wasn't because he was slowed by his ankle. It was the aggressive nature in which he was taken to the ground, ultimately. Now, I agree. I don't think he would have been caught perhaps in that situation, but that's something that maybe people don't talk enough about. Should players be able to slam other players to the ground? I don't mind it. I don't really necessarily have a huge issue with the way targeting is done right now. But that's something that somebody said to me. They said, man, they really ought to look at situations like that where players are just violently thrown to the ground. And I like defense. I like hard tackles. I like all of that. But there's probably some validity to those statements for people that buy into that. And I don't want to soften up the sport any more than we already have, than where it already is. But I think it's something, real. Back to Kelly, there was a play where he's running towards the sidelines. And it's a play that I've seen him run this season over and over and over. He typically lowers his head, finishes with contact, picks up the first down. Instead, he yielded to slide and slip right out of bounds. Then the other play where I really noticed it more than and at that moment I thought, ooh, he's not willing to give it a go. At that moment, I wasn't completely sold he's not going to finish the game because of his ankle. Later on, he's rolling to the right.
This is the one where you went, no, he can't. This was the play where I said he can't be in the game anymore. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's rolling to the right, and with every step he takes, he's hobbling.
He's dragging his leg behind him.
Yeah, he's just hobbling. And then it wasn't long after that, it was lights out.
That's when Syracuse started really sending the house after him because they recognized that he was not going to be able to get away from it. And that was the point in which I believe the coaching staff has to recognize that his ankle is a problem and they need to pull him out for his own health. Even if he doesn't want to come out, he's got to come out of the game at that point. And that's the first time in a while that I've been really disappointed in the coaching staff.
803-978-1832. Lowell, we only have a minute. Do we have a caller on hold with us?
We have a couple.
A couple. All right. Well, let's get one in real fast if we can. Caller, welcome in. What's up?
Hey, man, why you only give the Cleveland, man, every time I call is a minute? Why?
Man,
How you doing?
I'm good, Cleveland, man. How are you?
I'm just messing with Lord, you know what? Dino Favors said today on Paul Feinbaum's show. He told his coach to watch Kelly Bryant. He could see he was hobbling in practice. But Dabo Swinney couldn't see it. And that offensive line got pathetic. I think that's Clemson's a war-down football team right now. This break is happening at the right time. You don't have a field goal kick. I didn't even know. I was just so frustrated on Friday night. I'm on the road trying to get to look at the game, and I'm listening to Don Munson, and he's messing up on the radio. Timber Ray has to, he's in the booth with him, not Rodney this time. Timber Ray has to tell him, no, we're at the 41-yard lines of Clemson, not the – I mean, it was the whole night was a mess.
Oh, no. Hey, yeah, Cleveland, man, listen, man, we got up against the break. Call us back later in the week, though, buddy. Good hearing from you. All right, there he is, Cleveland, man. We come back with William Qualkenbush from Alabama's with Qualk. Stay with us.
Do you want a pharmacy that treats you like a person and not just a number? Then let Craig and Lori at Southlake Drug show you what a pharmacy should be. Fast, friendly, and professional. Southlake Drug can transfer your prescriptions and take the hassle out of getting your medicine and getting you on your way. Southlake Drug takes all major insurance programs, including Medicare, Medicaid, and state employees, and they provide immunization services, including flu shots with no wait and no appointment. Southlake Drug, 1856 Southlake Drive in the Food Line Shopping Center, 399-7701, or southlakedrug.com.
E.F. Martin Heating and Air's blackout sale is here, and we're blacking out prices for you. Don't wait for untimely breakdowns to occur. Call E.F. Martin today and save $1,000 off a new qualifying American Standard heating and air system. Call E.F. Martin today at 799-1717 or visit efmartin.com to see how you can save. Call for more details.
Call E.F. Martin Heating and Air. When you call us, we'll be there.
Cottingham Family Dentistry is proud to announce the opening of their new office located at 3722 Devine Street, and they're welcoming new patients. What makes Cottingham Family Dentistry different? It's in the name, family. They will cater to your needs and the dental needs of your children. Cottingham Family Dentistry offers same-day crowns, dental implants, cosmetic dentistry, including whitening, veneers, and tooth-colored fillings, and many other dental services. If you're searching for an amazing dental home, call 776-4234 or stop by their new office at 3722 Devine Street and become a part of the family at Cottingham Family Dentistry.
Get to Nissan of Orangeburg, where this month's featured unbeatable deals include $99 a month on a new 2017 Nissan Versa, or how about $3,000 off MSRP on a 2017 Nissan Sentra. Plus, Nissan of Orangeburg will honor any competitor's mailers. Don't miss these unbeatable deals. Plus, Nissan of Orangeburg will pay your sales tax and honor competitors' mailers. See dealer for details. Nissan of Orangeburg, exit 145A off I-26, or online at nissaноrangeburg.com.
Welcome back to Clemson Sports Talk. Join the show in the chat room at clemsonsportstalk.com.
It is the show that shakes the Southland, not only in the state capital of Columbia, but also in the Grand Strand, Myrtle Beach, and Conway. Clemson Sports Talk, and we're joined now by William Qualkenbush, out of bounds with Qualk and Kelly on 105.5 The Roar in the Upstate from 12 to 3 each and every day. Qualk, doesn't happen much. I welcome you in here off of the heels of a Clemson loss. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, what are we supposed to do? Like how do stations, normal other stations, like are in your neck of the woods, how do they handle the week to week? Like, can't we learn something from our feathered friends this week?
It's something that they've dealt with for a while. They're doing pretty good this year, though. I'll give them that. I said earlier, Carolina, it's not the best looking football I've ever seen, but it's a W. You know what? That's true. That's a good point. They did beat Tennessee by 6 whole points this past week on a goal line stand. They did. Although the clock operator, I don't know if you've seen the clock operator. I mean, borderline cheated them, and so I'm proud of them for adjusting and overcoming that. Listen, Tennessee's. Let's see. Was it the next to last play or was it the last? That was the last play. I believe I saw Clemson pull that one off for a touchdown and a victory in the national championship.
Hey, you know what? Imitation's the biggest form of flattery. Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Dabo must have felt quite flattered after that.
All right, let's talk about what happened up in the Carrier Dome. It was not pretty. And the big topic we've talked about here is I predicted this team would go undefeated this year in the regular season, but I had a caveat: the team had to be healthy. Clearly, Kelly Bryant was not healthy. About 3 minutes and 20 seconds left in the first half of action. He takes a little twinge. He gets a penalty for grounding, and at that point, I could tell. I'm like, look, he's got to get out of there. He gets hurt on the next series. But also, it comes back to haunt you that Greg Hugel's not there, and you missed 2 field goals that are makeable field goals. But just your thoughts, first and foremost, on the Kelly Bryant situation.
Well, and I'll give you the movie trailer version because how much time do we have? Goodness gracious. My general thought is that the nameless, faceless, one-game season, all that stuff is about players playing, and that never for a moment has Dabo Swinney and his coaching staff actually done that as coaches at all in the way they built the program. My single-sentence summary of the game is that the same mentality that has put Clemson in back-to-back national championship games cost them this game against Syracuse, because if it was about winning today, they would have put something else out there. It wouldn't have been Kelly Bryant at 70%. It wouldn't have been Zarek Cooper after Kelly Bryant. You probably would have seen Zarek and Hunter Johnson alternating series until one found a rhythm, especially after Kelly, the bailout, the sprint out play to the right where he basically was dragging that leg, kicking and screaming to the sideline. You knew then that he wasn't healthy. And so I'm kind of using the same tact in criticizing Dabo that people are using to criticize Joe Madden last night. He didn't try to win the game in the ninth. He tried to massage the game into the later innings where if his team got a lead, he could bring Wade Davis in to get the save. He brings in John Lackey. Lackey gives up the walk-off bomb to Turner. When he's asked about it, he said, we needed Davis for later. Well, that later never came. I kind of feel that way about Dabo and playing Kelly Bryant because he didn't play or he didn't coach the game to the extent that I felt like winning that game against Syracuse was more of a priority than managing the whole program for the season. And now he's got to do something different because you have no margin for error.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but I think about the future of the season. And, you know, concussions and the concussion protocol, I believe Kelly Bryant will be healthy for the Georgia Tech game. But I watch a little hockey from time to time, and I've seen a guy named Sidney Crosby miss months with concussions. And, I mean, and, you know, head trauma and injuries like that now, there's really nothing to play with. And I know Bryant will want to get out there and play, but for crying out loud, it's really not even worth it in 2 weeks against Georgia Tech if he's got any symptoms from the concussion.
Yeah, and I mean, you've seen it a couple times this season even. Clemson's had guys, I think it was Trayvon Mullen was in the concussion protocol. He was fine. But then sometimes you get guys like, let's just say, Luke Kuechly, for you Panthers fans out there. Missed 9 games last year due to concussions. He's back in the concussion protocol right now. You don't really know how a guy's going to respond. And frankly, with his body the way it is, I kind of felt like Dabo bears the brunt of the criticism. I know Dabo Swinney didn't hurt Kelly Bryant, but if Kelly Bryant's not solely thinking about how am I going to manage stepping up in the pocket and taking off, how am I going to manage this ankle without getting it ripped to shreds, I don't think he gets slammed on his head that way. I think he's a little more conscious about the way he's being tackled and the way he's allowing his body to be thrown around. And so I think in some respects the coaches are culpable in that injury, that they exasperated an existing injury by allowing him to play on it and made it actually worse. So if Kelly Bryant can't go in a couple weeks because of the concussion and not because of the ankle, I think that's on the coaching staff. And that's where I think the staff has got to get away from this from January to now, from January to now, from January to now, which is what they all use to justify Zarek Cooper going in the game. And they've got to go, all right, who's better today? Who's going to win the game for us today? Zarek Cooper's stat line wasn't that bad, 10 of 14, 88 yards, but I said it was like the Charlie Whitehurst stat line when he's filling in for the quarterback in Week 16 of the NFL season. It's a backup that team's going to lose 21-6. You're not winning any games with that stat line at quarterback. They're going to have to do something different.
There you go, William Qualkenbush on Twitter, at QualtTalk. And again, I believe everything you said there is correct. Once they saw the injury, they needed to get him out. Once it was clear that he had lost whatever he had in terms of his percentage of health, they needed to turn somewhere else. And ultimately, they didn't get to make that choice. It was made for him with the concussion protocol. Now, moving forward, you get a couple of weeks off. We had a caller earlier say they thought this looked like a tired team. Would you agree with that assessment?
I'm not sure about tired. I think they were rested fine. I mean, you got to think it's the most rested team in America that had a bye week, right? Because Dabo constantly talks about playing all these guys and giving all these reps to everybody. And, some people were critical of that. I think it looked like a team that wasn't ready for a fight, a lot similar to Boston College. I mean, where was Christian Wilkins? Where were some of these guys that are supposed to be, running to show up front, other than Cleveland Farrell, who I just saw the email was the ACC Defensive Lineman of the Week?
Yeah.
Other than that, who were the impact guys making plays? And then on the offensive side of the ball, when is Deion Kane going to make any plays that aren't just what's given to him? I mean, this guy's supposed to be a top 10 draft pick or something. He gets 7 catches for 55 yards. There's no reason he shouldn't have 100-plus. I think there were so many guys that just showed up and they thought Syracuse was going to roll over. And when Syracuse took the fight to them, they didn't know how to respond. I would say that's it more so than fatigue.
Well, and you go back to the situation with Deion Kane, drops, man. Drops have been a big part of, his lack of success this season. He had a couple there in the first half that, may have given that offense some momentum and just flat out dropped them. Hunter Renfrow doesn't drop a thing, and Deion Kane just struggles with it. We got about a minute. What do you attribute that to?
I don't really know, and it's frustrating because, there's so many times I put that out there. I straight up called him out on my show today because I feel like he's capable. And, I'm not